Hi, I'm Alex McBride. I'm on Uncommon today.
This podcast is brought to you by Neuralle Media. Are you an entrepreneur or marketer who needs help making podcasts, video, or animation? Perhaps you don't have time to manage a freelancer or the budget to deal with an agency. Well, Neuralle Media can help you with simple and affordable content creation, saving you time and money by taking away the pain of producing that content. To learn more, head to neuralle.com/media. That's neuralle.com/media. Play around with our pricing or request a callback directly. Listeners to the show receive a special discount by using the promo code UNCOMMON. Welcome to another episode of Uncommon. My name's Jordan Michaelides and I'm your host. In this episode, I have for you Alex McBride. Alex is the founder of the Fifth Watches, a Melbourne-based watch company that creates limited runs of high-quality and affordable watches. It's been quite fascinating seeing the growth of the Fifth over the last few years. I know that me and my mate Johnny have been paying attention to them for around 3-4 years since we found it. And unsurprisingly, in the small world that is Melbourne, Australia, Alex knows Marty Fox as well from episode 123, which I think provided us with some very unique insights for this interview. What I like about Alex in particular is his goals of hard work and legacy. I think we both have this in common where we saw our grandfathers and were inspired by the stories as kids, and ultimately this led to his passion for watches, and for me it was sort of in print and media, and for him it really led to becoming or creating this fast-growing watch business. And I don't know if many people know about Alex, but before he was even in the watch business, he actually worked in construction, which is quite fascinating. But look, there's a lot in this episode, including bazooka properties, which is a good little in-joke and story from Marty Fox. First and go-to watches that each of us have had, the legacy of the Fifth, creating a lifestyle brand, the Fifth Swiss, which just launched this week, September 2019, so go check that out. We spoke about marketing and, of course, TikTok. That's my go-to topic at the moment as well. If you like the episode, do leave us a rating on your podcast app, and if you want a shout-out, leave a review before next Wednesday. Share with your friends, take a screenshot, post on your Instagram story, tag us at uncommon_podcast. To watch the episode in full, search Uncommon Podcast on YouTube. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Show notes and all previous guests are at neuralle.com/podcasts. That being said, thanks for listening, guys, our regulars and our newbies for joining us this week. I hope you'll enjoy this conversation with Alex McBride. Alex.
Yes.
How are you, mate?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we were chatting just off camera about watches, which we'll jump into a sec. I have to ask, because I feel like I got a flavour for it downstairs. What is bazooka properties?
Wow, I haven't prepared an answer for that one, so you're going to hear the raw story. So, obviously, you know Marty Fox.
Yep. Fantastic, Mr. Fox.
Yes. I first met Marty. I was introduced to him because I was looking to buy a new office for our team, and I met Marty, got introduced to him, said he's the guy to stitch a deal together, and 2 weeks later he comes to me and he goes, "I've got the perfect place,
yeah,
but there's only one catch to it. It's too good a deal, and I want to go halves." So it was an awesome property. So I was like, "Sure, mate, let's do it." I think we had just signed the papers, and it was on Fitzroy Street in St Kilda, and it's opposite the park. And I was walking across the park, and Marty was so pumped up that we'd got this property for this price and done this deal. So he gets on his knees and pretends to hold a bazooka. 2 seconds later, a cop car, a SWAT van, rocks up, and a whole team of SWAT people jump out and put Marty on the ground.
Are you kidding?
No, I'm deadly serious. So
wow.
Marty gets put on the ground because they thought he was holding a gun.
Oh my God.
So when we had to put our company together, we said, Oh, let's call it Bazooka Properties.
How did that happen? So did someone, do you think someone called? Or?
Someone must have seen something and I don't know, because he was just kneeling on one knee pretending he had a bazooka in his hand.
Classic Marty, but also I wonder how many times he's told that story as well.
I don't know. Not many, probably. He's probably pretty embarrassed by it.
That's hilarious. I can just imagine him there pinned to the ground. He's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Do you know who I am?
Yeah, exactly. It's too funny. So when we came time to name the company, we thought, no better name than
gold. I'm
Bazooka.
glad that he told me that. That was just, I asked him, like, can you give me some notes? And he just said to me, ask him what Bazooka Properties is. That's so good. Now, we were chatting about watches, as I said.
Yep.
Your childhood, the one that you were given was a Tag.
Yes.
What was it? What model?
You know what? I can't remember the exact model. It's not a popular model. It's a really small watch.
Yeah.
I think it's a 32 millimeter.
Okay.
And face, so a really small watch.
Quite small, yeah.
Yeah.
Contextually, like, for people who aren't watch aficionados, like a Panerai, they're normally like a 40 centimeter. Those big, they're quite big.
They're probably up around a 46
Really?
millimeter. Yeah.
Jesus.
So
32 is tiny.
it's tiny. It was a vintage watch, and it was gold, and it kind of had you wouldn't wear it these days. It was kind of a feminine bracelet to it. So it was an interesting looking watch. But
yeah. So this watch that you asked me about is it's a Maurice Lacroix.
Yep.
This was given to me by my old man for my 21st. I've always been a bit of a watch guy. Like, I love Hodinkee.
Yes.
This is actually Hodinkee banned because I hated the original. So the original watch I had that was given to me got stolen the month after it was given to me.
The same watch.
The same watch, yeah. And luckily I had insurance.
Can I have a look?
Yeah, so we got it replaced. But I've always the original watch had a black band. And the only other one we could get in Australia that was still an automatic and not... What's that sort of type where they, whatchamacallit, they put the jewel-related thing in it and it makes it go forever? It's like a perpetual type thing.
Oh, there's there's an automatic.
Yeah.
There's a
manual.
Yeah, there's a manual wind. So it's really, how do you
Quartz.
Wind the automatic? Quartz
quartz.
is battery.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So we got that, and
beautiful.
I still have a sneaky suspicion that this one is a quartz and the guy did a dodgy on us. But the fact is that it was given to me as a gift from my dad, and I've kept it since. And
no, that's an automatic. It's ticking as an automatic. Quartz.
Yeah.
So quartz is a like, you know, quartz, the crystals.
Yeah.
So that helps regulate the time.
Mm-hmm.
So quartz, you can tell the way that a quartz watch ticks because it keeps exactly to 60 seconds, or exactly to the minute. And so that's what the quartz watch or the quartz crystal kind of regulates the battery.
It does, yeah.
So
and this one often, like, I'd say every couple of months it loses its time. It's probably got the wrong date. What's the date on it?
It's the second on this watch.
Yeah. So it's probably lost a bit of its time in the process.
No.
I need to get it rewound. I'd take it to get it serviced like once every 18 months or so. But yeah, like for me it was my grandpa. He travelled to Japan back in the 70s with my dad, and he gave my dad it was like a set of Seiko watches. So it was a Seiko, like a really tiny, sort of similar one, 32 millimeter, tiny band. It was a sort of thin black band, even thinner than this. Almost would have, like, if I'd wear it now, it would look like a bracelet.
Well, see, 32 mil back in the day was
standard.
It's a standard watch. So
now we've all got these big ginormous things. But so it was the Seiko Gold watch with the robotic voice. So you used to be able to get them and it would speak. Instead of this robotic English. Back in the 70s and 80s, they were like all on trend.
Yeah. Okay.
And then there's another one that was a silver clasp type. And he bought all them as a set, and they still had their booklets. I actually, I sold the gold robotic one because it's a bit of a collector's item. I've never really liked it.
It got handed to you.
It was handed to me. My dad hated it. I don't know why. He just did not like it. And I had it for years. I wore the Seiko one for years.
Yeah.
I've got a Seagull, a 1963, or is it 63 or 66 Seagull? It's the Chinese military watch.
Okay.
They did like a replica release back in the 2000s as well, and I found an original one, a Hodinkee. They're only like a couple hundred more than the replicas, which was interesting.
Really? Yeah.
But my dad's got some awesome watches. He's got this amazing Spider. I think that's why he wanted a proper watch.
Yeah.
So he's got an IWC. He's got some sort of Spider watch. I think it might be the Maurice Lacroix Spider. That's maybe why he got me this, because he loves that. It's sort of, those skeletal ones where it's sort of predominantly see-through. It's got the...
the skeleton face, so you can see all the movement.
Skeleton face and whatnot.
Yeah.
What else has he got? I feel like he was talking about a Patek.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, Jesus, okay. There you go.
Well, maybe inherit that one.
Yeah, trying to signify the stage of his life now. But he's not much of a... He's not a massive watch aficionado, but it sort of passed on to me. Me and my mate MJ have been obsessed with watches ever since.
He sounds like he's got a bit of a collection, though.
He doesn't have too many. It's mainly just friends of his that have good taste in watches that give it to him.
Oh, good mates.
Yeah, very good friends.
So why'd you wear that watch today?
I don't know. It's just my go-to watch at the moment.
Yeah.
The Maurice Lacroix, the Seagull one, I've got I've got another Hodinkee band. It's sort of like it's a real diver's watch or like a pilot's watch. It's just it feels a lot more casual, which is, I don't know. I'd sort of, if I want to dress up what I'm wearing, I'll wear this one. What's your go-to at the moment?
We've got some big changes happening in our business, so we're about to release some big things. But so I've got my eye on something, but I'm not wearing it yet.
Okay.
But I kind of choose a watch to my outfit, really.
Yeah.
Because I've got such a collection that it's like, I think that one will look good with my outfit today.
Yeah.
I think that one will look good. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are you wearing today?
I'm wearing the Baja watch.
The Baja watch. And do you exclusively wear the fifth? Is there ever a moment where people catch you not wearing the fifth?
No, I can't. I can't wear anything else. I think, the only other time you'll catch me wearing another watch is when I wear my grandfather's watch. Okay. But I'll wear two watches. So I'll wear that on one wrist, and then I'll always have a fifth on. So I can't bring myself to wear another watch. I just can't do it, because I've put so much into the design and into the brand, and it's just I can't, my head just can't kind of go there to kind of understanding the other watches or getting into other brands.
Yeah, you've got a certain bias towards your own. Like it's one of those things, when you're inherently built something, you're just going to want to use it all the time.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that a lot, because one of my favorite things to do, this is just on the point of legacy, because you talk a lot about your grandfather and the impact that it had, and I feel like that was the same for me. It's so funny how that works out, right? Like, my grandpa started the first Sunday newspaper here in Melbourne, first Greek newspaper, and I've always just had this affinity for the media. Even though I got into the finance sector beforehand, I've always had a passion for media. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until I got into finance and I left, I'm like, fuck, I hate this. I need to go do this thing that I'm super passionate about. So it had me think about yourself, and, do you think that's part of the reason why you got into this area? Is it that element of story that you look up to, and for some reason that's what makes you passionate about this thing?
Look, my grandfather, he was a businessman, and I'm told a lot about that. He passed away pretty young, so at the age of 60. So I didn't get a lot of time with him. So I'm always told stories about his journey and kind of the family kind of having no money at one point because this venture didn't work and this thing went off, and so it was. I always get told of kind of the journey, but kind of when he passed away, he had a very successful business. It was kind of the height of the success of that business, and he'd bought his huge house down at Mount Martha overlooking the cliffs, and he had his boat, and he was kind of, he'd finally got set up, and it was and so I was inspired by his story. So I was like, I had a few setbacks when I was younger, and so it was always the kind of, I guess the connection to watches was he left me his watch.
Yeah.
And I got that on my 18th birthday. I was able to kind of get that. And when I wore that watch, I felt like I could achieve what he achieved. And it kind of gave me that extra edge of belief in myself. So it's more inspired by his story and his journey, and kind of, I'm drawn to business in the sense that I like taking risks, and I'm not afraid to take risks. And I kind of like the unknown space, and so the kind of businesses can kind of put you in sometimes. So that's where I'm drawn to it.
Do you find that, were you ever told as a kid that you had similar personality traits to him?
I'm told all the time.
Yeah. See, that's what it was for me, I think. Like, you hear their story and then you are told you have these certain traits about your personality which are very similar.
Yeah.
My grandpa was a similar thing. We actually lived with them for a while because my dad was renovating. We were renovating a house and we lived with them for about 9 months, I think.
Yeah.
So I got to know him very well, and I was just told, like, a lot, even after he passed, that I had a lot of very similar personality traits, and it's honestly, it's a weird thing because he passed away when I was 5 or 6, and it was, for me, for a decade, it was the most catastrophic thing for me in my life because you're told you're like this person. But now you don't really have them there to guide you in a way, if that makes sense. And so that's why I felt like maybe in that similar scenario, you start to grab at parts of their stories and personality and you start to embody it in a way.
Yeah.
How did your grandfather pass away? Because mine, he was terrible, stubborn Greek. He wouldn't, like, he had like a triple bypass and he wouldn't stop smoking.
Okay.
Like, he just refused to stop smoking.
Yeah.
That's what is so sad about it, is like he could have lived a long life, but he chose to smoke some ciggies rather than live his life to his full potential.
Yeah. I think it's a generational thing that I think he kind of had he was one of 13, my grandfather.
Oh, wow.
So he had a bit of a rougher upbringing. They were country people, and a family of 13. It's a lot of people to provide for. So I think the kids kind of found their own ways to make money and kind of live their lives, and so I think he had a bit of a tougher, rougher kind of upbringing. But it built him into kind of the person he was, and apparently I'm like, so.
That's so funny. Yeah, it's amazing how that can happen. It really is. But I guess for guys like us, it gives us something to do. Yeah, gives us a story.
No, it's nice. Whenever I kind of have a moment to, space to think about it and appreciate kind of what he's done and the inspiration and kind of how that's motivated me and continues to motivate me. Every time I think of the story or I see his watch sitting, beside my bed or anything, I'm reminded of those thoughts. And they're nice thoughts that kind of motivate you to kind of push a bit harder, or, it's good.
Well, and I've been thinking a lot about when it comes to legacy, like, how does a brand like this transform over time? Like, how is the Fifth going to be around in 100 years? Like, how often do you think about that? Because what I enjoy looking at is things like in Hodinkee, how they do those one-on-one interviews, and often they have collectors or famous people and their collection of watches, but oftentimes they have people who are unbeknown to most people, but they were like heads of a brand or a specific make of watch.
Yep.
And so you get to know these people who really made these watches that are now household names, which I find super, super fascinating. So I guess I'm intrigued. Like, do you know, we've got this evolution of the fifth Swiss now.
Yeah.
How are you thinking about this longer term? Where do you want everything to go?
I mean, it's kind of hard to contextualize it in amongst those big brands with all the heritage. But, you know, I guess for us, you know, what we believe is that there was a whole generation above us, you know, your grandfather, my grandfather, and kind of that there's some of that heritage which in watches which got passed down to us, but there is a whole generation out there who don't have that heritage, you know, and kind of they're losing the art and the beauty of watches, right? And so we kind of, you know, we've transitioned ourselves in a little bit, and we're going through a bit of a transition at the moment. But you know, we kind of saw ourselves as introducing people to watches, and that was kind of our space in the wider world of watches. You know, there's a whole generation of people out there who we've got to introduce to watches, and we can because of the price points. You know, the heritage brands, they can't compete at that level, and they can't talk to the younger demographic, younger generation. So we kind of see ourselves as that introductory, and you know what we're seeing now is there's a whole range of people out there who've been introduced to watches at a lower price point, and are now starting to get a bit of a flavour for it about, you know, what it means, you know, why I wear this watch, because it connects me to this emotion and makes me feel good, or it makes me connected to this person, and that makes me motivated to move forward. And, you know, there's all that history in watches, and we're finding people are starting to progress with watches. You know, they're looking at, where do I go to from a fifth? Do I go into, you know, an Omega? Do I, you know, leap into a Rolex? Like, where do I go as a brand? Which we believe there's nobody in the space. There's nobody in the space that can connect with the millennial generation, or even the generation below that, and really introduce them to the art of watches and the beauty of watches.
I'd agree with that. I think unless you're really a watch snob or aficionado, you don't care that much about watches. And I think brands like that, brands like the Fifth are super important. I can see now where the Fifth Swiss is coming in. Yeah. I can see that as your audience changes, your brand changes with them.
Well, it's like anything. You kind of start when you leave school, you get your first car. You start with you know, a Toyota Yaris or a, you know, Ford Falcon or something that's handed down to you, and then all you know, as you get your first job or as you get something better, you want something better, something that kind of represents you more and where you're at in life, and that's kind of where we're looking at the market and going, you know, there is nobody in that next step. Where do you go to? Do you jump to a $5,000 watch, a $10,000 watch, 20? You know, there's nobody in that middle space who can talk to our generation, and really offer them something that speaks to them.
Yeah, and I think that that 500 to 1,000 bracket is like where it's at.
Yeah,
I really think like there's nothing there right now.
No, the only brand there really is Tissot, but the Tissot they're in 50,000 retailers worldwide. You know, it's really hard for there's so many legacy brand like that. Yeah, that's to talk to a millennial generation. They just can't.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. There really is no brand. Like maybe a Seiko, but no one really knows of Seiko here.
I think Seiko's made a huge surge because I feel like Seiko is the brand at the moment that's fulfilling that space.
Yeah. And
Seiko have a long history. They've stretched their bandwidth with Grand Seiko, you know, to you know, right up there. But then they also have their lower price point too. So Seiko is a brand that is it's kind of in this world of, you know, affordable watches. You know, I think there's a bit of stigma to it at the moment, the industry, and I think a lot of people are kind of jumping to that Seiko watch. You know, they're jumping to that Seiko brand.
Yeah, but it's still like really, really unknown. I think that's where the opportunity lies. So it's going to be interesting. We'll get more into that in a moment. I want to just jump back to we're talking about your grandfather, your parents. They obviously would have initially steered you into the direction of property, which was your early career.
Yeah.
What did you learn? What did you learn from your parents indirectly or directly at all over your time as a kid?
Oh, it's yeah, okay. It's an interesting one because I kind of grew up at the feet of my parents. When I was born, I think they just started their architectural practice. I think they got 2 or 3 jobs and they thought they were flying. Then all of a sudden the recession hit. And
in
they were
91.
Yeah, and so because I was born in 89. So they were, it was a tough time for them, and I kind of grew up at their feet thinking, man, they work hard.
Yeah.
And it's hard to make, it's tough to make a living it's tough to make a living when you're really trying to push the boundaries creatively. And I think that's what's always drawn me to the creative industry is they need someone to go in there and pack punches for them. I've got a huge admiration for anyone who's kind of pushing things creatively and because it's tough. It really is tough. So I saw that with my parents kind of growing up, and I saw it as my role to go into property development to get them more work and more. I mean, this is me as a little, I'll solve the world's problems kind of thing. So that's kind of where I went into property. I kind of thought, I'm a bit risk taking. I'm a bit of a daredevil. I don't mind kind of, getting into it. So I'm going to go into property development, and I'm going to, help a lot of architects or creative people put projects together. So that's kind of how I started my journey in property.
Interesting. God, there's so many funny, you mentioned your parents. My dad, back in 1991, so we had a printing business with my uncle.
Yeah.
And they went broke during the recession. So the business liquidated, and then, they're working out all their creditors. There was one creditor. It was Telstra, and they wanted dollar for dollar on the contract. So for years, it was for something stupid like a mobile phone, like some $10,000, $20,000 mobile phone contract, where you're locked into 24 months. But back then, no one really had a mobile phone, so they were insanely expensive. And it was the same thing growing up. I realized how hard they worked because they had to, you had a mortgage and you had to pay off this debt and you have to start up again and get going. And for years, he would work during the day for someone else. No, so he'd be out during the day selling print, and then at night he'd be renting out a machine, printing until, 2, 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Come home, sleep for a few hours, then start again.
Yeah.
And he did that for 2 years.
Yeah.
So, it's amazing when you see that stuff, how inspiring it can be.
Yeah, definitely. And it's kind of, part of it, I guess, growing up with at the feet of them, I felt like I kind of owed them in a way. They'd worked really hard, and so I wanted to kind of bring them through. But I thought, I'm not going to go into the field they're in because they work too hard. So I'm going to go in the other field. But then, as you building something is not easy. So
it's so stressful.
So it doesn't matter what industry you're in. You've got to put in the hours.
So you studied at RMIT. You worked as an assistant project manager, then a development manager. I guess you've explained why property initially. I guess I'm curious as to what did it teach you as you went into sort of the Taylor board short and the fifth after that?
Working in a kind of a corporate environment, I could come home and my headspace was free. It's not like I bring work home with me. I did the best job I could at work, and then at home, I come home and it's my time. So I moved into an apartment that I just bought in Docklands, and I had, I was living on my own, so I had a lot of time. So I was, I started kind of thinking, what am I interested in? I've got to start a creative project because I want to fulfill that in me. There's something in me that's feeling uneasy and kind of not comfortable where I'm at, and I want to start a creative project. So I started a blog.
That's right.
And
this is originally an architecture blog, yeah?
It was, yeah. So it was talking about the power of design, and one thing that I was really interested is that you'd walk into one space and you'd go, this feels amazing, but you couldn't tell what in that space made it feel amazing. It just felt amazing. So that's what really intrigued me, is kind of, in property development, you're dealing with high-rise developments, multi-level, some of the developments I worked on, 120 apartments, 500 apartments. So you're dealing with, we need this many square meters, we need this bedroom, we need the bedroom to be X big, we need a little kitchen, and so you're dealing with, it become a kind of numbers game, but what interests me is how do the inhabitants of these spaces, how does that affect our lives, and so that's why I started this blog, to start talking about, the importance of design and kind of where the industry was going in terms of, let's make it smaller because we're getting, more investment from Asia, and a lot of the high-rise developments was foreign investment. So,
how long ago was this?
This was 6 years ago. It's still very similar. So, a lot of our sales were foreign, and it could just be people wanting to get money out of Asia and China and into Australia, and so the apartments might sit there and there's nobody in there. So I was interested in these macro trends of what was happening in the industry and how that actually carried through to our lives and how it affects our lives. So it was kind of an abstract concept, but that's where it kind of started. The blog for me is talking about design,
and eventually got to. Was it called The Fifth View then, or is that that's a long time?
No, it was called, the company's called The Fifth View, the original company that we set up. So so what happened was I connected with I think it was a friend of a friend, and I said, oh, hey, I'm thinking I want to kind of monetize this blog. I've got this blog, and the Cool Hunter. So I felt like I wanted to become a curator of good design. So I want to say, hey, I'm into this product, and I'm into this product, and I'm into this product because these represent this design aesthetic. And so that was my idea, to kind of monetize that blog and maybe sidestep into that path. And so I met a friend of a friend, and asked him, took him out for coffee and asked some questions about how I kind of go about this, and they had another business, and they had a graphic designer, and kind of different people in that business who could kind of give me advice. So that's kind of how The Fifth started. So I tried to monetize that blog, and it didn't really work. And I think there was a point in time where it was like, I don't think this is gonna go anywhere. It was I found it really hard to go, here's our kind of philosophy on design and life and a way of living, and here are the products. It was really hard to attach that kind of message to the product. We found that
it didn't really connect, right?
It didn't connect. It was more difficult than I thought, and so we looked at one product that we were looking to start trying to sell, and thought, let's just focus on that one product.
You had the Taylor Boardshort Co. before that.
No, that was after we started.
Really?
Fifth. Yeah, that came after.
Well, you were pretty in and out of that quite quickly. I think I've read that it was a year from setup to exit of the business.
Yeah, it was a quick one.
Yeah.
It was it was when the Fifth started. So back to your earlier point about starting with not a huge amount of capital. We started with $2,500. I engaged a manufacturer. I bought 50 of the first ever samples, and I sent them out to friends and family and got them to promote it. And I said, don't worry, it doesn't work, but we're going to get it to work. It's only a sample. So the manufacturer at the time thought I was nuts to have that many samples, and that's kind of how we started.
Okay.
So it was we had, and then came launch of the business. I just stepped away from my job in property. I think we'd hit 5,000 subscribers and on a landing page, and I thought, I think I've got enough confidence that we're going to sell some watches, so I'm going to step away from my job. I'd lined up a new job in, I think it was like 6 months' time.
Okay.
Just as a safety net, just in case things, always got to have a backup. So then I'd lined that up, and I left my job, and we launched the business. We were ready to launch a few weeks earlier, but the 5th of December 2014 was my birthday. So I thought, let's wait till then and let's launch then. So we launched then, and we sold, close to 1,000 watches on day one of the business. And so it was kind of like, it was my first time in business, so I was a bit ignorant. I was kind of thinking, what do I do? Do I take this money and, fulfill the orders and then kind of go back to my day job, or, what do I do? But, with kind of starting the business, you had to invest all that and some, into the next run and kind of build the momentum from there. So it was such a fast kind of paced growth and start to this business that a lot of friends kind of saw it happening and were kind of like, I'm going to leave my corporate job and do something. So that's kind of how Taylor Board Shorts started.
Interesting. Yeah, that was one of the things you spoke about in Rohit's interview on for the Startup Playbook, and how when you initially started off, you had this insane, like in the offset, it was just amazing. And so like you're asking yourself, well, what do you do from there? So I guess my question is, what did the first 6 months after that first day look like? What were you doing immediately after that?
I felt like a hamster on a wheel. The business had so much momentum, and we'd hit such a sweet spot for there was a need. There was a product need. People wanted it. Well, need's the wrong word, because there was a gap, and people really wanted a product in that segment. So it was the pace of the business was so fast then. It was we sold 1,000 watches on day one. We didn't have any stock to fulfill. We sent watches out when they were finished.
And how long did it take to fulfill it?
Production for us is 3.5 months. So
oh wow,
it took a long while.
Yeah.
We pre-sold the following month on the 5th again. 1,000 units, seeing what would happen. Sold out again.
Yeah.
The following month, let's put it up a little bit. 1,200 units, sold out again. Okay, next month, 2,000 units, sold out. Okay, next month, 4,000 units, sold out. So it took us like 6 months to catch up to actually, when you ordered your watch, you got your watch, because it was the backlog of pre-orders.
Yeah.
So it was such a fast pace, because buying 4,000 watches is not cheap. You need cash.
Yeah.
And kind of starting with $2,500, you don't have a lot of cash to kind of spend. So there's restrictions on cash flow, and you're trying to build a team. I've had no experience building a team before. I had an intuition for business, but I hadn't had experience building a business before. And I'd worked in property development, so I managed, kind of marketing and the project management and the architecture and managing a lot of fields, but I'd never really kind of done the marketing myself. But, what I found with a lot of it is it was intuitive. It's how do you feel? How do you connect with someone? And so a lot of that kind of came a bit easy to us. And, it was just this hamster on a wheel for the first kind of, it's 2.5 years. It was really, I didn't feel like I could catch up to how fast the business was moving and adjust my knowledge of what I knew about business to really know the moves I was making in business.
When did you finally feel like you were settled and that you were strategically planning things before, and you got out of that reactive stage to sort of being a lot more strategic?
I mean, throughout that whole process, I feel like my internal dialogue it would jump between feeling like everything's out of control and I've got no idea what's going on to then I'm totally in control and this is what we're doing and this is how we're doing it. And so it was kind of this tussle. But I think it was it's probably only been the last year, a year ago that I felt like, okay, I know how this works. I know, I'm pretty self-critical, so I don't like to say I know the answer to something until I really feel like I do know the answer. So it took me a while to feel comfortable to make the right strategic moves and kind of be a lot more kind of high level strategic about it.
Yeah. And one thing that Rohit mentioned to me is that your actual business model changed. So we mentioned before about purchasing on the 5th. And I thought it was so funny listening to that interview. It's just like, yep. So we only sold on the 5th because we're like, all right, do we open up tomorrow for another, like pre-sales or whatever, or do we just fulfill the orders and make it on the 5th of every month, which worked out really well in your favor. Do you still don't really do that now, do you?
We don't do that, no. But on the 5th of each month, we release something new. So tomorrow's the 5th. So we have a 007 watch we release tomorrow, which is a really cool campaign and really cool watch that we're releasing. But so we release something new and something limited on the 5th of each month. And usually that sells out or certain styles sell out on the 5th and we'll bring them back on the 5th of the following month.
Yeah.
But it's now you can shop the regular styles, everyday styles, or 24/7.
Okay. It's an interesting age that you're in. You were talking before about introducing this to millennials. How do you think about competing with, the Apple Watches of the world? Where do you see, I guess that's really a question about where is your brand today? Because it's as much a lifestyle brand as it is a watch brand.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious as to today with the 5th Swiss coming out, where do you see your place in the market and the ability to compete in that area?
Yeah, there's a few parts to that, and I think one is the lifestyle brand element, right? When we first started the business, we had so much success. On our first year birthday, we sold close to 10,000 watches. So it was
Jesus,
and we'd only sold for 13 days in that entire year. And it was my 26th birthday, so it was a pretty good birthday.
Wow. 10,000 watches.
Yeah, it was an insane growth. And with all that energy, all that kind of momentum, where do you take it? For us, I didn't have experience in the watch game. I didn't have the connections and the knowledge to push things further in the watch game. I didn't have advisors. I didn't have people around me who could help me kind of make the right strategic moves, because everybody looked at our business and goes, "Oh, your business is crazy." Like you've sold for 13 days in your first year and, you're selling this much. And so nobody around me felt confident enough to give me advice. They're like, "Oh, just keep doing what you're doing," And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just running. And so it was.
It's so just owning a business is like, as Elon Musk says, like chewing glass and staring into the abyss. Sometimes.
Yeah, it totally is. And it was kind of like I didn't, but we had all this speed and momentum, and so we engage an agency, and they're like, I think you should go here, and this is what you should do, and it's like, okay, cool, maybe you have the answers because you're an agency and you work with a lot of businesses and so yeah, cool, let's do that. And so what we did is we branched into eyewear. You know, we went over and designed these. We decided we were going to take on the eyewear market and make eyewear affordable. So I connected with some Italian manufacturers, and you know, some really high level designers, and we designed this, you know, Italian handmade in Italy kind of range. And we thought, you know, at that point, you know, those sunglasses were at $500. We're going to offer them for $100, $120. So we went over, invested, you know, a heap of money and made that happen. And because it's all part of being a lifestyle brand, you know, you have more offerings. We did the same with bags. We're going to take on the bag industry. Let's do that. But the problem with that is that you dilute your brand and what you stand for. And what we were known for is watches.
Yeah.
What we're passionate about is watches. All of a sudden, we're doing all these other things, and it really dilutes the message in the customer's mind of what are you about? What are you doing? And on the 5th of each month, now we're not only releasing 5 or 10 watches, we're releasing 5 or 10 watches, 5 or 10 bags, 5 or 10 sunglasses. And it's a really hard, complicated message for a customer to understand and really grasp. So it was kind of this thing that, you know, I kind of say, we're not a lifestyle brand. We're a lifetime brand. You know, we care about our customers. We want to grow with them, but you know, it's always in the space of watches. Now, kind of we stopped a couple of months ago. We stopped a lot of our sunglasses and our bags, and we're kind of back to focusing on what we're passionate about. So it's an interesting one when you have all that momentum and all that built up energy that it kind of it went somewhere, you know, and it's kind of like went left or right rather than kind of propelling us forward. So yeah.
And the 5th Swiss, where does this come into it? What's your thought process around evolving into or creating a Swiss watch as well?
So it was about it was just over a year ago. I think I looked at the global market. I'd tried a lot of things, you know, like we'd done awesome collaborations with Corey Wilson, you know, an awesome surf photographer. We'd done awesome collaborations with artists. We'd done furniture designers. You know, we released a range of furniture that you could buy off our website. We'd really tried to push things creatively. And for me, it was kind of like, where do we go as a watch business? You know, where is this market going? And I had this feeling like it was, you know, this affordable watch market is an interesting one. It's an introductory to watches at a price point, but you know, my questions its longevity, the market's longevity. So yeah. That's when I started discussions with my now business partner, who was the ex-managing director of the Swatch Group.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he's at all times, he's always wearing 2 watches. He's a watch nut.
Wow.
And we connected. We connected over. My dad has a vintage Amiga, and his passion for watches started through his dad's vintage Amiga, okay, that he won in a poker game when he was 7. So it you know, we connected over watches. We bonded with kind of where the market's at and where we, combining our skills of me understanding millennials and understanding how to market to millennials, and his knowledge in watches and his kind of long history in watches, we try to, you know, we looked at things and we go, imagine if we combined our skills and you know, where we could go. So that's how the story started with us. So,
and I can see now what we were talking about before with the fact that millennials' interests are changing. It's sort of you talking about the fact that it could be a trend as opposed to a category in and of itself.
It's interesting on that point of trend versus a category. I think there's a category, but
or it was a trend category, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it still will always be a category.
Yeah.
I think now it's definitely a thing that exists, but you know, like you guys really made it exist, and you got to remember, there's been, since you did it, there's been a lot of copycat.
There's been so
brands.
many. I mean, I could tell you a million stories.
Yeah.
Even my cousin who worked in the business went and started a copycat brand.
Oh my god.
There we can go down a whole rabbit hole of those kind of stories. But there were so many copycats, right? And so many people with bad experiences because they use a cheap manufacturer they find on Alibaba. And it's not hard to buy one of our watches and then send it off and get them to make it, and then sell them to their friends and their family. And then they decide, it's not a good business, I'm going to stop doing it. But you know, their friends and family have had a bad experience with watches at that price point. And, you know, that only has to happen so many times for quite a large, amount of people to have a bad experience at our price point. I was at an event the other night and I was talking to an influencer, and he's like, you know, I'm out shooting all the time, and the guys are still wearing all their fifth watches, and they're always saying to me, like, your watches are the best of that category. And I'm like, that's awesome, but like, you know, I don't want to be in that category. You know, I don't. You know, it's kind of been tarnished by a lot that's happened in that space. So and I think the way it's changed the industry is it gets people away. Like we're in a day and age where we don't need a watch, right? We've got our mobile phones. You know, there's clocks everywhere. We're good.
Computers,
exactly. We're always connected, and so we don't really need a watch. And maybe that goes into the smartwatch discussion, but we don't need a watch. So a watch needs to mean something, right? Now, when we started, we had a really strong vision for what our watches meant and what we wanted people to feel when they wore our watches. But I feel like that category is it's been tarnished by a lot that's happened in that category. And so people have I feel like it's kind of lost the connection to what watches are about. It's more now, I'm going to wear that watch because it's going to match that outfit. And it's you know, it's a wristband, whereas a watch is more than that, you know, and that's kind of where we look at the market and go, we want to, you know, the other day we did a poll on our Instagram, you know, to our following of 450,000 followers, and so many people had really little knowledge about watches, and we did that to see, you know, what does our consumer know about watches?
Yeah,
and they don't know much. So it's an interesting thing where it's like, oh, wow, we can really educate people. We can really introduce people into the art of watchmaking, the beauty of the industry.
Yeah, I think the way that your brand is going now. So this may come as an interesting question. Yes, the fifth Swiss will probably be in that range that we were talking about earlier. But I wonder if, as part of that, the range of the fifth watches actually decreases and becomes more refined over time. And as a brand, you start becoming really, like it starts to have an element of herdinky to it. You know what I mean? Like that allows people to understand the status behind watches and why you have watches and what's in the movement, and you know, why did Alex select this dial and this moon face and stuff like that. I feel like that is sort of where I can see that's what's in your head, because I can see that with the imagery that you've been using for the fifth Swiss. Yeah. So I can sort of get a sense that that's where things are going. Yeah. Which is a great idea.
Yeah. No. Well, thank you. It's like it's. I'm really excited to show people the beauty of the watches, show people the beauty of the industry. You know, that's what excites me. You know, we've worked with a French designer. He designs for most of the big brands, like a lot of them, but he's the guy in the back. Thankfully, my new business partner, he's an old friend of him. Met him through his time in Switzerland, and he's designed our range with us, and so him and I have, every night for months we just talk. This idea, try this, and we're talking about millimeters of tiny, not even like half a millimeter, 0.1 of a millimeter changes to a design that will affect the feel of that design and how it feels on your wrist, and that's really when we designed this product, and when I was recently in Switzerland to look at the final product, and you put it on, and it was just, again, it's like the spaces when you walk in a nice space, you don't know exactly what it is, but it just feels nice, and all that care, all that CAD work, all that modeling work on changing this millimeter over this millimeter results in a beautiful piece that you kind of look at and you go, wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it's about. It's not about, I need a watch to tell the time. It is a functional time teller, but you look at that, multiple times throughout a day. So it needs to be something beautiful. You want to look at it and you want to go, wow, that's nice. Like that's the feeling we want to give people, this beautiful piece, because we've, put hours and hours and hours of design into this and made something that is previously impossible, because there is nobody doing what we're doing. So it's been, one, it's been costly. Two, it's been, you need the right people and the right connections, and it's a bit of a ballsy move. There's nobody in our category who would be willing to make that jump. It is a ballsy move.
It's a lot of capital.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Yeah. So it's but where I'm, if somebody can get the same feeling that I got when I put on that watch, then I'm like that happy. I'm happy. So
how is marketing changing? Because a lot of what you did in the early days was driven by influencers on Instagram, and Instagram is probably the primary channel that really grows, or from a social perspective is what defines a lot of your content. How do you see that changing with the advent of the Swiss? I feel like there's a lot more story-driven stuff that looks like it will be happening, or that's where things are going for you, at least.
Yeah, I think people, the customer is very educated these days, right? They've got access to a whole plethora of information. Gone are the early days of Instagram where you can get someone to wear a watch and everyone buys it because they think that's the hottest thing. It's like you really need to be doing the right thing as a brand. It's gone are the days where you can get away with, with kind of not doing things the right way. So, for us, it's, again, it's a beautiful experience, beautiful product, and showcasing that in a beautiful way with real stories. So, and we believe, if we can do that, and we can really connect with people, then, then we're doing a good job. And it doesn't feel like it's not marketing. It's education, and I feel like, where the world is at, people really want to back something big. They want to back a movement. They don't need products. They don't need something, but they want to back something. Because it talks to their story and what they believe in and what they're about. So, it kind of simplifies our job in a lot of ways, where it's beautiful storytelling, beautiful product, which we know is there. Showcasing in a beautiful way with beautiful photos and. Yeah, it's a really nice space to be in.
Yeah. It's I think you're right about that. The way that social and marketing is changing is it's way more story driven. Like for years in Australia, we had this very transactional style of marketing. And with the advent of social media, that's really opened us up to different ways of telling stories.
Yeah.
And that's a big one. I've been getting obsessed with, I think you guys should get on this eventually, TikTok.
Oh, yes. My girlfriend tells me about it all the time.
Really? So she's on it?
Yep.
She's
built a following on it. So
really?
Yeah.
Has she got the same handle as Instagram?
No, she flies under the radar on TikTok.
Does she?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I'm trying to find it, but she Yeah, she goes under an alias, so I don't really know what it is.
It's a lot of fun, and I can see that is the future of social platforms, without a doubt. That sort of video first nativeness is very interesting. We've been playing around with it. Me and my partner have been playing around with it for the last week.
Yeah.
We've been trying to get like an ad partner relationship with TikTok. We just reached out to them this week because they're very closed on who can run ads.
Yes.
So it's like Instagram back in 2012.
Yeah, it is.
It's very early days.
Yeah. What we found is the audience. We did some work on TikTok, but what we found was the audience was too young for where we're at as a brand.
Right now, yeah.
Right now, that
they're super duper young, but the thing is that in 2 years,
that's right.
It'll be everyone else on it. And that's the thing. And so that's like definitely a common belief amongst people that the time put in now is not worth it. But you got to think that if there's real estate on certain like as an example, Lauren and I did a bit last night because I had anxiety for years, and we just did like a gag on anxiety. And there's no anxiety hashtag. There was no main, like not one that's been heavily populated.
Yeah. Okay.
Which goes to show like there are so many areas. If you were in real estate, I looked up the real estate hashtag the other day. Real estate Melbourne, there's like nothing. There's like 1,000 views or something like that. So you got to imagine that if you spend the next 2 years building up the skill to use that platform plus those certain hashtags, then when everyone else starts piling in, there's going to be massive opportunity. I'm just telling everyone who's listening, get the fuck on TikTok because then they can go follow me.
No, we've done a bit of work, and I think that's Tristan. She keeps up to date with it. I think the 5th we've got a following on TikTok.
Do you?
Yeah.
You should. She's great. Then she's the R&D worker.
Yeah.
For your social media platforms, because that's amazing. Which sort of brings me to another question about family and business, because you've got your partner there.
Yep.
Manning, is that your brother?
My brother, yeah.
Yeah. So he worked for you for quite some time.
That's right. Yep.
What have you learned about involving friends and family in business?
Look, it's difficult.
Yeah. It's never easy.
It's not easy, but for me, my grandfather and my grandmother built that business together that inspired my journey. My parents have their architectural practice together. So my mum's an interior designer and my dad's an architect, and they run the practice together. So I've always grown up around it, and it just feels like it. I feel like when you're doing your own venture, it is a way of life. It's not like you go to work and then you come home and you live your life. It is a way of life. It's kind of, you put everything into it. So, when you're doing that late nights, when you kind of, you want your friends and family around. But it has its challenges. And you learn a lot about family. My cousin worked in the business. He ran a lot of our marketing efforts, and it's kind of his kind of role as maybe kind of like a growth hacker. He left the business and started his own watch brand. It's like you learn a lot. There's a lot that goes on, and there's a lot of challenges. So it's not easy. It's not easy, but
it's fun.
It is. It's fun, and part of my brother. So he ended up. I think he's very loyal, so he kind of wanted to, we had such high growth, and then trying to maintain that growth and grow again presented challenges. And then if we didn't achieve that growth, then we've got cash flow challenges. And then, and it was too hard for him to play that supportive role when we were all so young in business, and so we were just kind of flying by the seat of our pants kind of thing. So I think he opted out and was like, I'm good. I'm going to go back to uni.
And I was looking at it the other day on LinkedIn. He's gone back to architecture, right?
Yeah, he's gone to follow mum and dad. So interesting move. So
that's
he's.
So funny. I wonder if he'll come running back in a few years. He's like, fuck this.
No, it's good. He's really found his thing. So it's it's nice to see him kind of really step into there and be passionate about that. But there's been cousins in the business. My partner works in the business.
How do you, with that, it's an interesting one that I like to ask people when they've got their partner involved is, how do you guys maintain separation from work? Like, do you always make sure that you have like a date night once a week, or, like on a Sunday you don't ever talk about business related stuff? How do you look at all of that?
Yeah, it's. I think we have all those practices, but sometimes they just go out the door. But it's I'm sure, as you know, it's when you've got something on your mind, it's hard to switch it off. You got to sometimes you're just better off getting it out, dealing with it, and then moving on. So it's it presents as challenges because for me, I feel like I have to run the company, so I have to be the boss. And there's certain things that are required by our team at work and things that I expect. And I have to play the supportive role of a partner and make sure that she's getting the best kind of education she can get and the best kind of experience she can get to grow her. And so you have to play a number of different roles throughout the day. So it can be like quite hard to be on all the time.
It's very hard, yeah.
So it's it is difficult, but it is rewarding too, because when you have the successes, you share in those successes. Yeah. So it is rewarding, but it's challenging, and you got to be willing to kind of work it out.
Lauren's taught me a lot about tempering my, like, I always have this sort of like how you mentioned, I'm always thinking about stuff, but also I'm also wanting to get stuff done like immediately. Like I just, if I have like an email, I've got to type up the email and I want to send it straight away. And so she's been very good for, making me a little bit more agreeable over email, not being so forthright with certain situations. Has there been an area where you think Tristan's enlightened you, so to speak?
Oh yeah, in many ways. When I'm getting really into the design or really into the work, like I could be, just leave me alone. Like I'll go into a dark hole and I'm happy to just keep designing and keep kind of building things and kind of working away at things and I can get really focused in that zone, whereas I might not reply to emails for ages, as you probably know. Or I might not. I have everything worked out in my head, but I just don't, there's some things that I just fall down on. And one of them is like, personal profile. Like I don't put enough time into it. So she's like, give me your LinkedIn. I'm posting for you. I'm doing this for you. I'm getting back to all your messages. So it's, she's really kind of helped me become more aware of where I'm kind of
I'm
letting myself
at
down.
That stuff. So we've had this agreement with TikTok and more of Instagram. She said to me, well, your person, because I never really invested any time into personal brand, just all on like sales or stuff related to the podcast or the agency or whatever. And so now with the whole TikTok thing, she's like, all right, I'm your creative director and I'm going to be telling you what to do, basically. Yeah. You can come up with ideas and all that, but this is like, we're going to do this properly. And it's it does make a difference. And it's super helpful in the long run, I think.
Yeah, no, it really is. Like, I think you get to learn, a lot about the other person and kind of how you can help them and they can help you. And it kind of, it's a nice situation as well as it has its kind of challenges. But, it's interesting because you got to switch on to, then I've got my normal employees, which I need to treat with a level of
professionalism,
and there's, so it's kind of, it is a challenging balance you got to reach, but it's rewarding all the same.
Before we get into some rapid fire questions, I want to ask you about the differences in products and services. You worked in construction, which is really a service. At the end of the day, you've got a client that you've got a relationship with.
So I worked as the client.
You worked as the client?
Yeah, so it was property development. So I was, So it was putting the buying the land and putting the project together.
Okay.
Yeah.
But in a way, you're working in a service-based industry,
Yeah.
and then you jump into a product-based industry in watches. Have you noticed any crucial differences between those two areas in the way that you deal with clients, in the way that you make products? Anything at all in particular which has helped the Fifth today?
You know, whenever I'm in a situation, I'm quite aggressive with where I would want to push that situation, or where I want to push not the situation itself, but where I want to push myself in that situation and what I believe in. So, you know, when I was in property development, you know, some of the projects that I was really attracted to were, you know, we did a lot in Docklands, and we had a portion of our budget that we had to spend on public art, which was part of our development deal with Vic Urban, or Places Victoria at the time, and so they're the projects that really attracted me, because at a macro level I could look at Docklands and go, you know, this really needs some spaces that are really going to lighten up people's day, or they're going to create some interaction with people. They're going to create more community engagement, which is what I thought was needed down there. So in a sense, I was able to look a lot kind of at the macro level of what I thought needed, and then I really enjoyed kind of working on more creative projects with these artists, and as well as kind of the high-rise developments, because we're a little bit more limitless in our ideas. You know, we could, you know, I could help put together whatever concept they wanted to come up with, and I could help push it further and then put it together. So that was kind of what I really enjoyed, and that's kind of what led me more down the design path. But so then bringing that back to products, it's you know, at the end of the day, you're trying to design a beautiful, especially in our industry, you're trying to design a beautiful object, and it's an object that people feel good when they see and interact with, and it has some emotional connection to them. So it's in a way, it's from a macro level, it's the same thing, but you know, now it's getting into the detail, and with the watch, you don't have a lot of real estate to deal with. So it's you know, we
pun
just
intended.
Yeah, we you know, we'll 3D print a model like 4 or 5 times, and we'll change this and we'll change that, or you know, now we're really getting into the micro changes that affect the feel of it. So it's at the end of the day, it's all about feeling, and it's all about you know, a connection or an emotion that's kind of evoked, and so there's similarities in those kind of ways.
I can see as well with watches, because there is less real estate. It sort of locks in. It's sort of like a positive restriction, if that makes sense. Like you know that you've got X amount of room to work with.
Yeah.
So you've got to be your most innovative when you're coming up with ideas at the time to get it done.
Exactly, and it kind of comes down to such small changes that you can make that really affect the feel of something. You know, it's like. You know, if you're designing a plaza for a big area, and you know, you've got an art park or something where, you know, it's not the join here is not going to affect the whole feel of the park, you know. But if you're designing a tiny little watch, then you know, if you do this, the inner bezel on a little bit of an angle, it's going to make it feel, make it feel a bit more restricted on the dial, and you know, but if you open it up, it might make it feel a bit more sporty. You add a bit of steel here, it makes it more sporty. So it's just tiny little changes, like, you know, micromillimeter changes that kind of affect the feel of things.
Before we jump into those questions, is there a particular finicky thing that you can remember that you spent hours or weeks on trying to refine?
Yeah, the design one of the designs we'll be releasing soon is, you know, I didn't sleep for a whole weekend. I was on Rhino. I was, you know, playing around with it. I was like, oh, change this, change that. You know, it was our first kind of Swiss watch that we were designing. So I was like, this needs to be perfect. And we finished on it. And then multiple times throughout that process, I thought, you know, am I doing myself a disservice by overthinking this, and over analyzing this, and it was interesting because when it carried through to the actual product and when I put the watch on, I got this awesome feeling, and it's so perfectly balanced, right? But I didn't put as much thought into another watch that we designed, and as much kind of into that one. So, and we've had to since go back and then make changes, which pushes the timeline out, a month because I didn't put that time in. So it was a nice affirmation that the time that you do put into the design and the feel of something and the care that you put into it really affects the feel of it. So it was a nice affirmation, that one.
All right, we're going to jump into these rapid fire questions for you.
Yeah.
What does your this is one that we got quite a few questions about this. Your morning and evening routine.
Yeah.
So what do they look like?
It changes. Like some mornings I feel like, because a lot will happen throughout a day and my mind will be so active, and you probably experience this where you're jumping over 10 different projects, and so then when I have to go do creative work, I find it quite hard because I struggle to go from all these problem solving and all these things to, okay, I'm going to look at this with a clear mind.
And you've got to sit down for like 2 hours, an hour or so to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's sometimes, some mornings I find where I might get up at 4 a.m. and my brain's a little bit foggy, so I'm not overthinking anything. And that's when I get some of my best work done, is when, I'm not overthinking things and I'm just kind of going with the intuition or the feeling of things. And that's kind of, so some mornings I'll start in the office at 4 a.m.
Wow.
And then I'll get all my work done, and then I'm good to help people with their work and be on call for whatever someone needs of me throughout the day. But, at the moment I kind of, it's 5 a.m. I get up, gym, and then into the office and try and get an early start, because I am an early person. The last kind of few weeks it's been, I think it was 4 nights last week, we left the office at past 11 o'clock. So
wow.
It's been a busy time trying to put this together. It's been a really long project and a lot of hours put in. So, but again, I get that at night where I'm tired and I don't overthink it. I'm just doing the work. So I find the more I can operate on intuition, the better the result. And the minute I overthink things or there's too much going on for me, then
you're cooked.
I'm cooked. I'm kaput. So it's really, but I think it talks also to just creating space for yourself. I think it's really important that, I love surfing or skiing or, getting outdoors. So the more I can do that on a weekend, it takes my mind somewhere else, and then I feel like I have the space to create more, so it's...
When you do get time off at night and you're not finishing at 11 p.m,
yeah.
But I know all too well what that's like.
Yes.
I got an early night last night and I didn't eat dinner till 9:30.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you typically get up to if you have the opportunity to relax?
Look, I'm a bit of a homebody, to be honest. I'm just, Netflix and it's just try anything to try and switch the mind off, because otherwise I'll be thinking and then I'll be doing Instagram and then I'll be on the computer again, and then so the more I can, sometimes I go to a movie and I just go to the movie and I'll go to sleep in the movie, because then I can't. Then I'm restricted to that chair. I can't use my phone. I have to just sit there, and then I'm like, oh, this is what relaxing feels like, because it's too it's tempting. When there's so much going on, to just grab the phone and
to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got this thing where I meditate once a day, and oftentimes I will not fall asleep. You're not actually falling asleep, but it's like falling asleep. Apparently, you go into I think it's like theta waves or something like that. It's like your body's shut down, but your brain hasn't.
Yes.
So it's sort of like recovery, but it's not.
Yeah.
Best feeling in the world, though.
Yeah, no, I used to do a lot of that, and I probably should do a bit more. But because it's the more I can do something that just takes my mind completely to another area, the more space I feel I have. So it's
Well, I think you're in real project phase right now. It's really hard to get that stuff done.
Yeah. So, but anything extreme sports, it's like skiing or surfing or anything. I'm like, that's when I really get taken away somewhere else, and so that's what gives me space doing that stuff.
How big is the Uber Eats Deliveroo bill at the end of every week?
Hey, I've got a good ritual. Each Sunday I go to the market, get all my fresh food. I think
What's your market of choice?
South Melbourne.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had, I went through a stage early in the business where it's like Uber Eats every night, and I just felt like I was getting unhealthy. And I feel like to operate at a good level, you need to put good stuff into your body. So we do the market rounds and organic shops and stuff, and we get all the good stuff in
for the week. Yeah, I love South Melbourne Market.
Yeah.
Your grocer, who I've used many a time. Yeah, great service. But when I can, maybe 1 or 2 Sundays a month, I'll get down to South Melbourne Market. Love it there. You can get a plate of oysters casually while you're doing your shopping.
Know the people you're buying from. See them each week.
I love that. Rita's Nut Shop. Big shout out to Rita's Nuts. The old Greek lady, she loves me. And what's the deli which is over from Rita's shop? Emerald Hill, I think it is.
Yeah.
Another Greek lady there. She's fantastic. They always crack the shit to me when I come back because they're like, why haven't you been here regularly enough?
Yeah.
But it's good. I do like that. I do like the community aspect.
Yeah. It's a nice energy, the weekly ritual. So, yeah.
Last question for you. What's been the best purchase under $200?
Wow. Best purchase under $200.
Or around $200, because there's one type of purchase that people have been mentioning lately, particularly in the last year, and it may be an Apple product that everyone seems to love as their best purchase.
It makes me think one thing that I constantly have on me is my Beats headphones, because I wear it as a necklace, and then I can just plug it in whenever I'm going. So
Beats is your go-to?
Beats is my go-to. I can find they're magnetic, so it's just like a necklace, and then I just
really?
I just wear them and then just plug in wherever I am, because I'm on the move a lot. So when you need to put something together, for an EDM or some marketing collateral, you need to plug in, get into the zone, and you put them in, and away you go.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mention that, because AirPods is the biggest one that people reference.
Yeah. Okay.
So I do love my AirPods, but I didn't realize how impactful they were to everyone else.
Yeah. No, I haven't got on the AirPods.
Do you have an iPhone?
Yeah. I've just been on my Beats, so
they're amazing. Once you go away from cordless, the Beats, are they wireless or
they're wireless. They're Bluetooth. So, but
you know what it's like, right? Like when you go to something that's Bluetooth, you never go back.
Yeah.
So I think that's why.
Yeah.
It just makes it a little bit more achievable for people. Alex, thanks for coming in, mate. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
Me?
Yeah. You and the fifth.
Yeah. Look, if you want to see our latest offering, we're currently running a trip to the competition.
That's
for
right.
a trip to Switzerland.
Heli skiing.
Heli skiing with me. So we'll do those extreme sports. We'll get some mental space. It was. I did it earlier this year in Feb, and it was the experience of a lifetime. It was
the videos are amazing. When I was doing my research, I looked at probably every heli skiing video that you've got.
Oh yeah. Well, we've got a few more. That's what I've been in Perth the last few days working on. So it's I'm pretty excited to get that out there. But if you want to enter our competition to win a trip to Switzerland, jump online and search product hype / the fifth Swiss, or just type product hype the fifth Swiss into Google, and you'll find it. You can enter there to come on a fully paid trip with me to Switzerland. Then if you want to find me, I'm on LinkedIn, Alex McBride. I'm on Instagram, alex.j.mcbride. I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and I'd suggest any young entrepreneur should be following you. And also, if you're a fan of watches, go check out the Fifth.
definitely.
I'm very excited. Me and my mate Johnny, who I was telling you about, he finished in St. Kevin's the year after you, have been very intrigued and chatting about the Fifth Swiss. So when does that actually release?
September 16.
Okay, so it'll literally be just about when this episode launches. So there you go.
Okay, there we go.
Just about. Then there or the week after.
Okay.
Or 5 days after that.
Yeah.
So
5 days. There we go.
Alex, thanks for coming in, mate.
Thanks very much for having me.
Cheers. Thank you for making it to the end. Before you run off, subscribe if you enjoyed this episode, or do leave us a rating. For Instagram, go follow us on @uncommon_podcast. For YouTube, search Uncommon Podcast, and don't forget to subscribe if you're watching this video. Also give us a like or leave a comment on what you thought about the episode. But until next time, thanks so much for listening.